It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Grizzlies on the Hunt. Now, today, ladies and gentlemen, hello, Samantha. Hello, Nicole. Welcome. Today, we are talking about the dark side of science. Have y'all heard about the horror of the ape and the child experience of 1932, the experiment? So man, we should say, has always been fascinated with trying to crossbreed Stalin, right? Remember Stalin in Russia, trying to create a hybrid from a woman and an ape to create this massive soldier. Now, Hitler tried to do the same thing when it come to other dwellings, creatures, but also blonde hair, blue eye, dominant men, right? But have we not heard through the folklore and history about children being raised by wolves out in the forest and so forth? So one of my colleagues of mine, which is, she has ability, she'll be joining us here shortly to join the group and the discussion. She was like, you know, I came across this case of 1932 about this experiment. And it was horrible. And ladies and gentlemen, if we look at this as a totality, now when somebody says a totality, in reference in law enforcement, that is, we take everything as a whole and we look at it, right? That is a totality of circumstances. Now, we know beyond a reasonable doubt that men or man has been trying to play God ever since the creation of time, whether it's been with technology, cloning, reproducing human organs, 3D imprinting human organs, whatever it may be, stem cell research, however you want to classify it, label it, that is fine, right? But this scientist, which is very interesting, back in 32, wanted to take an infant child, a human being, and an ape and raise them together and see what kind of outcome, what would happen. Now, we know that we sent monkeys to space for a reason. We know that certain pig organs can be used in human beings. Hello, Crazy Witch. Just dropping in. All right. Just got done mowing. Great day to mow. You ought to hear about this experiment from 1932. The dark side of science. This is what we just know about, ladies and gentlemen. This is what's very intriguing, because how everything took place and how it was documented. Now, I can lecture you on this all day long, but I like graphics. I like details. I like to see everything. So, like that old footage, roll that beautiful bean footage, right? You remember that pork and bean commercial? So let me share this screen and let's get started on this. And we'll talk about it as we go, because this is very disturbing. Let me make sure I hit share audio. But ladies and gentlemen, take a look at this. Here we go.
Throughout history, stories of humans being raised by animals have fascinated mankind. The feral children have found their way into human culture throughout the years, from Charlie all back to Romulus and Remus suckling from the she-wolf. Infants seemingly offer a blank slate upon which language, culture, nationality, and morality are inscribed throughout their development. Because of this, child development is a miracle of learning, and as such, it has not only fascinated the likes of Rudyard Kipling, but also that of scientists. And one such scientist would devise an experiment, but instead of putting a child into the wild to be raised by animals, turn the tables and take one of our closest relatives of the animal kingdom and raise it as a human. Today we're looking at the ape and the child experiment. Welcome to the dark side of science. Our story starts on the Abreu colony in Cuba in 1930 with the birth of a female chimpanzee on the 15th of November. The baby chimp and her mother and father were donated to the Yerkes National Primate Research Center not long after her birth. The research center was headed by eugenicist Robert Yerkes and was used for medical research into comparative psychology. The baby chimpanzee was given the name Gua, and in June 1931 she was forcibly removed from her mother's cage and was sent off to a new home at the age of 7.5 months for a comparative experiment. Her new family was scientists Luella and Winthrop Kellogg and their 10-month-old son Donald. But before we carry on, here's some background information to the Kelloggs and why this young chimp became a resident in their house. Winthrop and Luella had married in 1920. The couple had met in Indiana University while studying. Winthrop was involved in a very diverse set of research subjects, but throughout the 1920s focused on conditioning and learning. He was fascinated with relative influence of nature and nurture on behaviour, and if you could isolate the nurture element. He was fascinated with what if you could raise an animal, a primate for example, in the exact same way as you would an infant? Would the chimpanzee's development change, or maybe would it even begin to act like a human? He had been concept of a comparative experiment during his postgraduate days at Columbia when studying for his master's in 1927. Kellogg during this time was fascinated with accounts of feral children living with wolves. He believed that the infants learned to live like wolves because that was what their environment demanded of them. Thus, if the tables were turned with a wild animal, could nurture overall heredity and even humanize it? The birth of Kellogg's first child offered a unique opportunity, and that was to comparatively raise the child alongside a primate. Kellogg devised if he could raise a chimp with Donald, their son, like siblings, he could then see the nature differences. The chimpanzee wouldn't be a pet, but treated in the exact same way as the human child. They would be fed by bottle, bathed, clothed, handled, and pushed around in a pram. It would be induced to walk upright, the same as a child, and would be corrected in its mistakes, like a human as well. The chimpanzee would also be taught and encouraged to eat with a spoon and to play like a child with children's toys. The primate would not be allowed to learn in any other way than the human way, thus allowing the experiment a chance to succeed in creating a human acting chimp. In order to facilitate his experiment, Kellogg would seek help from Yerkes. He received the Social Science Research Council Fellowship to work at the Yale Amphipod Station in Florida in order to prepare for his experiment in 1931. Needless to say, this would necessitate the Kellogg's family moving to Florida, and not long after, Gua the chimpanzee would join the family to start this bizarre experiment.
Hey, podcasters, come here. Yes, you, come here. If you're still...
Gua and Donald were introduced at the ages of 7.5 and 10 months respectively in the summer of 1931. And in every conceivable way, the two were treated by Winthrop and Luella as if they were brother and sister, Straight away, the Kellogg's started noting the physical and behavioural differences between the two infants. The former was pretty easy, as the two were different species of animals, and with Gua having longer arms than Donald and much greater physical abilities. Gua had nearly all of her teeth, whereas Donald only had two. To discover the differences, both physiologically and psychologically, of the two, Kellogg thought up some strange and somewhat cruel experiments. Kellogg took great interest in the differences in how the two's bone structures developed. To explore this, he tested the differences by sound, by hitting both Donald and Gua's head with a spoon, to try and hear a difference in the hardening of the skull. He found that Donald's head radiated a dull thud, whereas Gua's made a harsher sound, hinting at the chimpanzee's bones being more hardened. Bizarrely, Kellogg had previously x-rayed Gua and already knew her bone density was equal to that of a 2-year-old human. To ascertain the differences between the two's reaction times, the Kellogg's devised an interesting experiment. Both Donald and the chimpanzee were placed in front of a motion picture camera. This was to allow reviewing of the reactions later on. After the two had settled and the camera was recording, a revolver was fired in the air behind them. Both were startled, and it was discovered that Gua reacted more quickly than her human sibling. The experiment was repeated a few months later with 5 other children, ranging in age between 17 months and 8.5 years. The basic day for the two test subjects consisted of a 7 a.m. wake up with 7:30 a.m. breakfast. Then until 8:30 a.m. sit with the adults at the breakfast table. From 9 in the morning until lunch, the time would be filled out with controlled observations, car rides, outdoor and indoor play, photographing, and various experiments. After lunch, at 12:15, nap time followed by a bath time. And between 15:30 and 1600, more experiments, observations, playtime, and tests. To end up the day at dinner at around 1800 hours, followed by bed at 18:30. The days were not always run strictly to this plan, as the Kellogg's had various different engagements. During the experiment's initial 2 weeks, Gua's reflex behaviour was recorded. An interesting behaviour was noted. The chimpanzee had issues in her balance after standing upright. There were 2 conclusions that the Kellogg's family made about this. The first being due to her still being fully developed. But the other conclusion was that she was becoming disorientated due to having to look up at her human observers more than if she was in the wild. Probably a bit of both, as this new environment would definitely have been confusing to her.
Now, how would this be confusing to a chimpanzee that is not able to understand to how to walk on 2 legs, but to crawl and use all 4s? Now, how is looking up at a human being disorienting? Now, I'm not very intelligent. I do not have a PhD. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm not a scientist or a rocket engineer, or do I proclaim I work for NASA by any means. But ladies and gentlemen, you see how the chimpanzee walked into the room.
Gua added to her new sleeping arrangements. A cot was constructed and was designed to be usable for an infant child with mattress, clean linens, and even night clothing. When this was temporarily removed, her reaction was predictable. She began to cry out in despair. Gua's reactions when sleepy were very characteristic of a human child. When picked up, she would try and cuddle up, and when sat up, her head would nod down, only to come back up startled by the motion. For the first 2 months, Gua napped more than Donald, mainly after meals, but as she got older, she slept less in the day, eventually getting to the 1 nap as outlined in the day schedule. Donald, on the other hand, was sleeping 2 or more hours in the afternoon nap time. Gawar slept during the night without issues throughout the experiment, something that from experience isn't something that a human child often does. But as the experiment progressed, she started to make a nest with her bedding, a thing that chimpanzees do in the wild with twigs in trees. She hadn't seen anyone else do this, and thus showed the behaviour was possibly hereditary, or could be perceived as an infant playing in their bed in the night. Throughout the experiment, both subjects were observed during their physical development. Stroller. Human infants don't develop walking until at least 10 months. Gua, on the other hand, could walk by the time she was with the Kellogg's. She also had a stroller, but she used it as a toy instead of a walking aid. Interestingly, Gua was beginning to mimic the way humans walk, adopting a more upright posture. The chimp was showing much quicker level of development as Donald for the age. The experiment continued to observe the differences between the two in the way they interacted with their environment. During the toddler months of childhood, the beginnings of reading and language start to develop. Part of this is the ability to point at things that interest the infant, and Gua exhibited these behaviours as well. The two infants, almost right from the start of the experiment, seemed to enjoy each other's company, with Donald showing great delight in interacting with his new sister. Gua would hold out hands to Donald, stroking her hair. As the experiment progressed, it seemed like the two, especially Gua, had become attached to each other, always making a beeline for him when he entered the room, and noticeably got more excited when playing with Donald. If Gua was admonished for doing something wrong, Donald would go up to her and hug the chimpanzee. As Donald developed, he was able to even say his sister's name. When another older child called Martha was introduced, Gua behaved similarly by hugging the 3.5-year-old, smelling her hair and holding her hand. Interestingly, Gua was much more reserved and timid around human adults, which to me sounds very similar to how a human child may act, loud and excited with their peers, but quiet and shy around adults. Gua's actions around new adults was even more shy and even at some times seemed fearful. The pair's interactions with other animals was characteristically childlike as well, with Gua stroking the next door neighbour's cat and having seemingly no fear in approaching adult dogs, much like a human child. But this would change at the age of 11 months, after she had mistakenly taken the dog running as a game of tag. From then on, she became scared of almost all other animals, including chickens, cats, and even birds in the trees. Gua's emotional responses to being admonished or punished for
Well, welcome. How are you doing today?
Hey, I actually didn't get to watch this.
Rosie.
I was planning on it. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We just going over this experiment. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear. Rosie, introduce yourself to everybody.
Hey, everybody. I'm Rosie Page in the paranormal community. And today has been a weird day, but interested in stuff like this and anything paranormal or true crime or that's a mystery or unsolved or missing people or anything like that to that effect.
So what do you think about this case? I mean, this is not a typical case that we would actually see in today's media, right?
No, that's why I thought it was weird because you're always seeing the same stuff over and over again, really, nowadays.
But how do you take this case when you first saw it? I mean,
I haven't watched the whole video. I was going to watch it today, but I didn't because our cat has been really sick, and I'm pretty sure he's probably not going to live but maybe a day or two longer. And we took him to the vet today, and he has feline AIDS from getting attacked.
Really?
Yeah, he's been attacked a week and a half ago by some other cats when he went outside one night. And I thought his hair's falling out in clumps, and he's lost like half of his weight. He dropped down to being like a fat cat to like a little skinny cat, and he just has a limp too from getting in a fight with those other cats. Like he isn't walking very well on his front right leg, and I just knew something was wrong with him, and I was like, he needs to go to a vet because I think he's dying, and I thought he might have leukemia. So I wanted them to test him, and they said he has feline AIDS, and that it's probably from the cat scratches or the bites from the other cats that he got in a fight with.
Wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea that was even feasible.
I had no idea it could be that fast in a cat. Like, it could take them down that fast. Like, I know humans, like, sometimes can have a really, quick spiral.
Right.
Or a flare-up of stuff like that. Not as far as, like, AIDS goes. I don't know anybody with cancer or leukemia and stuff like that. Or, like, lupus and whatever. You can have flare-ups and, like, episodes. But I didn't really know anything about cats having that stuff.
Yeah, that's strange.
Yeah.
So we're in the process of watching it, and right now they are testing the theories out of them growing up together and them walking and learning. It's very depressing. I'll continue on. Welcome to the show.
Elicited an interesting response. She would noticeably become distressed, and then approach the experimenters for affection or a kiss, as a form of forgiveness for committing the faux pas. This is a type of behavior seen in children, but comes on later in social development at around 18 to 24 months. This showed that Gua was developing faster emotionally than Donald, and that she was learning very human-like behaviors. She had mastered opening doors, especially a swinging door, a month before Donald. At the age of 1 year, Gua had figured out that this was controlled via electric light bulbs. As such, when an adult put their hand up to the switch, I would look at the light in anticipation of its illumination. The experimenters attempted to teach both how to play patty cake. Donald picked it up rather quickly and with little prompts happily followed the game. Gua, on the other hand, never learned how to play properly, even if he was given daily opportunities to practice. Two subs also underwent potty training. Gua had more accidents than Donald and was seemingly embarrassed when she made them. Eventually, she would indicate that she wanted to go to the toilet by oohing and holding her genital area. This would develop to her going to an experimenter and indicating by tugging on the adult's trousers. Throughout the experiment, both of the subjects were given the opportunity to use a spoon. Like many other observations, the Kellogg's saw that Gua was way ahead in proficiency than Donald. By 13 months, she was using the spoon for self-feeding, with little less, in contrast to Donald, who had mastered the skill by around 18 months. Another test was devised where a reward was placed behind a wire mesh attached to a door frame. The only way to get to the reward is via the use of a hoe to drag it under a small gap in the mesh. Although both figured out the solution out of 100 attempts, Gua proved to be more consistent in her success rate. The Kellogg's wanted to probe into a vital part of the human experience, and that was something that makes us unique: language. For this part is where Gua would fall behind and Donald would develop some strange new behaviors.
I'm curious to see how I got paid $2,317.16 this month
like, what?
without lifting a finger. I did not spend a cent of time, a penny of my money, or a single.
Gua's language development differed to that of a human child, in the sense that she would communicate her wants physically, like pointing to her mouth for food. As we saw with her potty training, the need to empty her bowels was indicated non-verbally. This was the same for when she was of her ended playmate, to pull experimenters' hands to items she needed help with. The vocal communication Gua achieved was limited to oohs, ahs, and grunts. This is where Donald exceeded, as almost from the start of the experiment he was attempting to vocalize his emotions and needs. This would develop into vocalizing actual words, a feat Gua failed to reach. But something rather worrying began to become apparent in Donald, in that his speech became stunted. This is likely due to his lack of socializing outside the experimental setting, and as such, failed to pick up words discovered in interaction with one's peers. He was only in possession of around 6 words, but he did show signs of vocal imitation, although not from his human carers, but instead from his chimpanzee sister. The Kellogg's noticed Donald barking like a dog to communicate certain emotions. The child would also screech, scream, and even ooh like an ape. Gua, although not learning to speak words herself, did learn the words spoken to her. Initially, she would react just to the tone of the way the words were spoken, but she began to show signs of being able to differentiate between different commands. Initially, she would react to no and kiss, but her word reaction vocabulary expanded to around 95 words, including the ability to point out parts of her anatomy when asked. Donald, from the start of the experiment, to his lower compared to Gua, or flying walk, overtake and vocal issues caused concern by the 9th month of the experiment in Luella, and as such, the experiment was abruptly brought to an end. Gua was evicted from a human household and sent back to Robert Yerkes on the 28th of March 1932. From there, she would be the subject of a number of other experiments conducted by Robert's wife, Ada. But what of all the data collected from the study? And what was the result of the 9-month ape and baby experiment? Well, the Kellogg now Rihanna and all set about a book and publishing a study. Winthrop's results showed that he was disappointed that Gordon had hit a wall of development. He had generally hoped that immersing the ape into the human household would have created the reverse child. It's undeniable that measures such as walking more upright, being relatively potty trained, understanding a multitude of commands, and even showing off her problem-solving skills. Ultimately, Gua was limited by the fact that she was a chimpanzee, and that her heredity limited her ultimate ability of language. Essentially, nurture can only take you so far until nature catches up. Initially, the experiment went public when the article was published in the American Psychological Journal. It was written in such a way as to appeal to as many people as possible. This, unsurprisingly, generated a lot of interest in the press at the time. And by the time a full book was released in 1933, the study and its ease of accessibility resulted in polarizing opinions. Many critics pointed out that Gua being pulled from her biological mother at such a young age and the suddenness of the ending of her adoption. This, no doubt, must have been very traumatic for the young chimp to be ripped twice from her perceived home. But the biggest criticism came from the use of Donald as a test subject. Understandable, after all, it was on Luella's insistence that the study be terminated. The extended period of 9 months in which Donald was used in the experiment resulted in his development being stunted. And needless to say, this brings up questions of the study being ethical, especially when feasibly a child wasn't even needed for Gua to be raised with humans. A number of the tests throughout the study were questionable, where the child was frustrated in the broom experiment, hit on the head, and startled with the gun. But how did the subjects fare later on in life? Well, unfortunately, both participants' lives would end in tragedy. Gua would die of pneumonia on December 21st, 1933, less than a year after she left the Kellogg's family, just after turning 3 years old. Donald would live to the age of 43 when, in 1973, he took his own life. In all respects, he had grown up healthy, studying medicine and specializing in psychiatry. Whether his upbringing had contributed to his demise, we will never know. Luella and Winthrop would pass away in 1972. Now, where would you rate this experiment on my ethical scale? I'm going to give it about a 5 or a 6.
Wow. That's kind of surprising. I wouldn't even rate it that high.
So
That's
I
kind
missed the
of
part where they say that they used a gun and a broom in one part of the experiment.
yeah. So they actually put the ape chimpanzee and the baby in a stroller, right? And they would fire off a pistol to see the reaction. And they would redo that a couple of months later. Then they would reenact that with other children, with other ages, to see their reaction. And of course, the chimpanzee jumped out of the stroller and into the adult's arm and was like, scared shitless. I mean, why would somebody even do this? I mean, I said in the beginning, everybody's heard the story about the child being raised by wolves and and bears or Sasquatches, whatever you want to call it, ladies and gentlemen. But what is going on today that we don't know about? That's my question.
Well, I don't think it's that bad if it had not a terrible outcome that was permanent. Does that make sense? They decided to end it after such and such time because they noticed that it was being less successful than more successful. So they kind of ended it and they put them back in there, I guess. I guess the chimpanzee went back to an original place that it came from and the child stayed in the home.
Right.
So to me, that's not too bad because if you look at the tabloids nowadays, you have parents that are letting their children sit in their own fecal matter and eat it and die. Human children. And they don't stop after 9 months. They just let it happen until they die. Or they beat them, or they neglect them, or they rape them, or they murder them. So something like that, I guess, back from the 1930s could have in any way ever, yielded some kind of knowledge or experience that could have created a better world now. It didn't look like it was going to, but they ended it at the proper time. They didn't let it keep going on. Then I'm pretty much up for any kind of experimentation that's not too tragic to somebody to try to make life and the world better than it is now, because it's not looking too wonderful.
Well, my thing is if we look at the totality of everything, right?
Yeah.
What was the purpose of the experiment? Okay. Now, were they trying to replicate that, that they could replicate the stories of the child being brought up in nature as a wild creature? Or were they trying to prove that a wild creature could be brought up as a human in a controlled environment? See, I don't know.
At the end, they said they didn't really need a baby in order to actually put the chimp in a human home and try to influence it towards human ways. They didn't really need a baby. So I think really they could have even done it with an older kid. I think that they just did it with a baby because the baby seemed more to be of the age and size and needing to learn those basic things that the chimpanzee needed to learn itself. Maybe that was why that they did that, or maybe it was just someone got curious, like a mad scientist type thing, or maybe they really wanted to know if a chimpanzee could actually be intelligent to the level of a human. I don't know.
Well, now that brings me up to Stalin. Now, did Stalin or did not Stalin try to mate women with gorillas to create a super soldier, right? Remember, he tried those experiments.
Or it also makes me think of what was her name? Oh my gosh, the woman that worked with chimpanzees.
Oh,
Jane
Goodall. Yes.
Yeah, she actually had a lot of success doing that. Teaching them different teaching them sign language with their hands and teaching them to basically express that they wanted things and to understand tones of human voice and understand expressions of emotions and maybe, basic needs that they had, to go to the bathroom, or that they cared about somebody, or that they wanted to actually they learned human language, but they symbolized it with their hands. They couldn't say it, but they knew what it meant and they understood the meaning of the words. So that was with an adult though, adult one-on-one.
Right.
Yeah.
So yes, Crazy Witch. Yeah, we have learned a lot of stuff since then. I totally agree with you on that. But, and here's where the but comes into play. What is going on right now that we do not know about? Now, I remember the first hand transplant. You remember the movie Face Off? Now, that actually took place before or after the movie where they did the first face transplant. So, Grizzly was a Soviet scientist that tried the gorilla human hybrid, yes. Under Stalin, yes, that was correct. I thought so. I got my fact checkers in here, Rosie.
So it was a hybrid? Are you saying?
Yes. Yeah. So they actually tried to cross-breed apes, silverback. I don't know if it was silverbacks or some type of apes with human women. And they tried to impregnate them back in the 30s and 40s.
Like there's documentation of the birth process, the birthing process?
It never worked.
Oh, they didn't get pregnant?
No, it never worked. It was a failed attempt.
I wonder if it was intervened or if it was repetitive with failure. Like, was it intervened by some kind of entity because they saw it unethical, or was it like a failed attempt repetitively?
Let's see here. Well, let's find out by Dr. Google. Soviet.
I'm not really like, I know who Stalin is, but I didn't know that he actually tried to crossbreed humans with monkeys. I mean, he's not a good person. He did all kinds of bad stuff. But
and of course, nothing I typed came up. I wasn't even typing in my platform.
But honestly, if you look at that, that is minute in like comparison to the shit that we have to live with every single day. There is a mass shooting every day. Every day.
Why is that?
I don't know. I think that it started with COVID, and I'm not saying that it's like some kind of thing that was bioengineered or planted in us. I don't think that at all. I'm not saying also, though, that I don't think that that could have been done on purpose and that could have been sent here on purpose to take the United States down slowly and silently. I'm not saying that either, but I'm saying that I think that whatever COVID caused by us all having to alienate ourselves, that it basically kind of turned us back in the direction of like a chimpanzee. An animal, a person, a feral, like, you know, wild animal type person, animalistic in nature in the brain, like our brains maybe devolved a bit, and some either children that were brought into the world being subjected to that, maybe their brains didn't evolve as much as they would have or could have. I don't know if there's been a statistical testing on that or not, but I feel like that was put in place to cut the population and to devolve humanity in the United States. That's just my belief. That's my opinion. That's what I'm seeing, though. That's why I'm saying that.
It could be. Now, Wikipedia says back in the 1920s, the hypothetical hybrid of chimpanzees and thus a foreign animal hybrid, yes, serious attempts to create such hybrids were made by a Soviet biologist. I cannot pronounce his name, in the 20s. And also by the Chinese in the 1960s, which I was not aware of. But neither of them succeeded.
What year? What year was it?
In the 20s for the Soviets, in the 60s for China.
So it was before this even happened in the year.
Yes. And then the Portomatia humanzee for a human chimpanzee hybrid appears to have entered usage in the 1980s. Now, what in the world is that?
That's not that long ago.
No.
I wonder if that's inspired the Planet of the Apes story. Because they were like
in the 1980s, the reports of a human experiment, a chimpanzee crossbreeding, conducted in China in 1967, planned a reassumption of such experiments. They did it again in 1981 Yang, I can't even say his name, head of a hospital in Xinjiang, was reported as claiming to have been part of the 1967 experiment in whatever revolution, which I cannot say, was actually responsible with scientists that set off to the farm to labor 3 months pregnant, but each of the chimpanzees dying from neglect.
So the living chimpanzees died from neglect, or the women were impregnated and they aborted?
It says, with chimpanzee female have been impregnated with human sperm. According to this account, the experiment was cut short by cultural revolution, with responsible scientists set off to a farm labor with 3 months pregnant chimpanzees dying from neglect.
Oh, the chimpanzees.
So, ladies and gentlemen, they succeeded.
Well, they didn't, because they died from neglect, which is insane that they would go through all that trouble and just let them die.
But does that make sense? Somebody's not telling us the truth, Rosie.
What do you mean? You think that they did it and they just don't want to say that, and they closed the case as died from neglect?
I don't have a crystal ball, but in 2019, unconfirmed reports surfaced that a team of researchers led by Professor Young Carlos from the Salk Institute for Biological Studies in the U.S. successfully produced the first human monkey chimera.
When?
2019.
That's what I thought you said.
Produced pig and sheep embryos containing a small percentage of human cells, as those embryos with human monkey chimeras were reported only allowed to develop for a few weeks. So they actually did allow them, but they terminated them. And they actually formed nervous systems. They actually had organs, but they avoided more severe ethical concerns for the research. Wow. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is on Wikipedia. This is on Google. I had no idea.
You know that there's a movie about this, right?
And what's the name of the movie?
Have you seen the movie Nope?
Are you talking about the old romantic couple, the one that can't remember?
No, it's a new movie. It just came out a few years ago.
No, I have not then.
Actually, 2022. It's called Nope, N-O-P-E. Jordan Peele. It's a Jordan Peele movie.
I have to check that out.
There is several scenes in there of what I would call a psychopathic chimp. But I won't give away all the I won't give away, like, okay, it was used in movies as an actor, and it was domesticated as a chimp, and it was raised around people. And then one day it just snaps and goes back to its primitive survivalistic nature.
It says here, Pope Alexander II says that he recently, Count William, who lived in the area of Liguria, had a male ape who called Mamo, M-A-I-M-O, which also his wife, was exceedingly imprudent and wanton and played in more, in a manner I cannot say on the air, bare 2 sons of hers, which was punishable whore bore of a certain bishop. The beast mated with the woman. So then, according to the Pope's account, at the same time for us, rather than a large boy was born, although it is said he's already 20 years old, is still unable to speak, and looks like a monkey. And he's called the same name. This, ladies and gentlemen, this blows my mind.
So he's alive?
This is, I
and
don't know.
20 years old?
This is what it says.
Well, he made it to 20 years old at least, right?
That is correct.
So if he made it to 20 years old, then that's successful. And there we
That
have
is
the Planet of
wild.
the Apes. Planet of the Apes. Maybe it's not really a sci-fi movie.
That is wild, ladies and gentlemen. Missy, Crazy Witch, what do you think about this? Rosie has a point. Yes, she does has a point. That's, hey, this is her story. I was like, you got to be a part of it. So, yes. I mean, it's also possible that it's just an official story. Well, okay, look. Yes, I know Bigfoot's real. I saw it. I've seen it. It does exist. So, would this be possible? Right. Okay. Go ahead.
Theoretically, there was supposed to have been a race that was similar to that anyways before our time, anciently, like back in ancient times, that they have found skeletons and skulls of that had enlarged ape-like skulls, but they had human posture.
That is correct. In the 1970s, performing a chimpanzee named Oliver, I remember name Oliver chimpanzee, was popularized as possible mutant over a human chimpanzee hybrid, claims that Oliver had 47 chromosomes, midpoint between the normal 46 for humans and 48 for chimpanzees.
That's weird.
Yes, for genetic material at the University of Chicago in 1996. His cranial, ear-shaped freckles, baldness fall within the range of exhibited by a common chimpanzee. It also resulted in further studies with Oliver were published in the American Journal of Physical Anthropology. What did you just walk? Look what you just started.
Yeah. That wasn't that long ago either. It wasn't even 10 years ago. Well, yeah, it was. It was not even 20 years ago, though. Okay, wait. 20.
Yeah.
Okay, it wasn't very long ago. Like that, if they succeeded in reproduction, that being could still be alive.
So basically, what I'm reading here, they've done it.
I know that sounds sick, but to me, that's actually exciting that can happen, because I do believe at one point that there were anciently a race of beings that were part some kind of what is their scientific name? Like, it's not human.
You're talking.
Like,
I know what you're talking about.
Marsupials and like reptiles.
Yes.
And what is chimpanzees? What are they called? I can't remember. But that there was a race that supposedly, from dig ups and findings and excavations and the skull findings and the body findings, a large giant race, and then another race that had chimpanzee features, but they were beings that stood like humans, and they had the skull shape, and it was enlarging and looked supposedly like a chimpanzee or an ape or one of those monkey type class. So if that existed then and that was extinct, how did it exist then? Was that before the humans that we are now, or was it after, or was it the same thing in a crossbreed between humans and whatever, apes or chimps? I don't remember what year that they said that was.
Homo habilis.
Huh?
Homo habilis.
That's
what Samantha's saying. Yes.
Okay.
Well, like Robert says, like Dolly the sheep. Ladies and gentlemen, when Jurassic Park first came out, I said that's going to come reality. When Terminator came out, I said that's going to become reality. Mm-hmm. Everybody laughed at me.
Well, it is
look,
now.
Ladies and gentlemen. And I played with AI the other night, and I was like, holy cow.
Honestly, though, that the animal thing was already naturally, in some cases, a reality without any experiments, without any purposefully done experiments. Because you have, like, radiation reaching animals. should be elongated in schools from Peru and other places that are extremely. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, how do we know that this will be different? Because it's not acceptable or easily accepted right now by us with our human brain, because we're not taught that that was a thing. But if we find those bones when we're digging that proves that that was a thing, then scientists somewhere, these people you're reading off their names and the dates and stuff, physically proved that that could have been a thing by making it happen. I'm not saying I'm going to go date a monkey, but I'm saying somebody did.
Ladies and gentlemen, for your entertainment purposes, right there is a link I was looking at. So, yes. Now, do I believe everything I see? Absolutely not. But there's some validity to something. So, Norma, all the human genetic modification labs are underground. Yes, that is true. Absolutely, Norma. I do believe in that. People want to play God. They want that God particle. That's why they want AI. They want to live immortal forever. They want that fountain of youth. So, and why do you think all these college graduates are failing college now? Because of that chat, GPT, whatever. Give me an essay, 4,500 words, please, regarding scientific study on embryos. Done. I know, right, Norma? That's what I'm saying. You know, Rosie, they estimated 150 million people without jobs with AI. Now they're up to 600. Now they're over 800 million people with AI. What do you think about that?
I don't think that that should be a thing yet. I think that they should keep it as a reserve.
I think it's too late.
You know, though, what I was discussing with my daughter the other night.
What's
how
that?
They're allowing the border, that opening. They're allowing, what is it, like as of last week, and they were allowing people to come through and get processed into the United States.
Do what?
The gate that Trump built with the opening there were people there from all different countries sitting there, and they were waited when that, what was it called? Article 42, when it expired at midnight, was it last weekend? They were going to allow families to come into the United States and go through a processing, like it was going through a process to be able to come over on the other side of that gate, basically to live on the other side of that gate, to escape where that they were at, to escape.
So we're going to give them asylum.
Yeah,
wonderful.
Have you not seen that?
No, I have not. That's how busy I am.
They have to abide strict codes of, like regulations, codes of conduct, rules. They have to get armbands put on them. They come through one at a time. I think they're taking families first, possibly, that might have like kids and stuff, like families.
Now, you really, beyond a reasonable doubt, that you think this is going to happen and work that way?
No, I'm pretty sure they're doing it right now. They were talking about doing it. I don't know if they actually had to like sign something and have all of these people agree, but I know that I've seen video footage of people coming through. Now, I don't know if they were illegally coming through, but they said if you come through illegally, you're going to be banned for 5 years. And if you come through again illegally, because there have been several people over here that have came up in the, criminal world as like, drug dealers and murderers and like causing accidents from their negligent behavior. They had escaped from there and they had already
vehicular homicide, yes.
And they had came back. Yeah, well, if you come through unauthorized, you have 5 years automatic ban. And if you come through again, then you're permanently banned.
Wow. Yes, Samantha, I do believe with you. That is correct. I think the Anunnaki tweaked the Homo erectus. Crossing the border illegally is no different than regular B&E. Crazy Witch, do not get Grizzly going on that. Rosary already done. She done hit the buttons.
What's B&E?
Robert. Unbelievable. Are you? She's being serious. They reckon Moses was a hybrid from the Enoch. Yes, that is correct. That's what they're thinking. Are you really being serious about the border?
Yeah, go look it up. Look it up. The Article 42, it expired like a week ago. And they had a process that were discussing. Did you not know that all these people were going up against Biden? All these other people that were politicians were going up against Biden to try to stop him from doing that.
They're laughing at me.
He was going to allow them to come in. But listen, this is what my thought process is on that. If you allow husband and wife and kid families to come over here who are sober, who are clean, who have no criminal background, and you know that they're going to work 10 times harder than any of the unemployed Americans right now. They're going to work 10 times harder for less of a wage, right? Then why not just take, and I don't mean to be mean, and I'm not judging, I'm just saying this is just a thought. Take all of the people from Portland, Oregon that are tweaked out on trank, heroin, and all those other drugs that are vandalizing the city, forcing all those businesses to move elsewhere. Take all them people and throw them on the other side of that gate and let those families come through and replace them.
Oh, hell, there goes YouTube. Thank God we're on 14 other platforms.
What?
So there goes our YouTube channel. So thank God we're on other 14 platforms. Crazy witch. They really did expire that policy and people are just pouring in. I don't know. That's what she's telling me. Do you think I'm looking at the news right now?
This
No.
wasn't something a politician said. This was like I've seen videos and I've seen it. Like, I watch the news daily on the daily. I watch all kinds of stuff just so that I'm in the know about things that's going on in the world because I didn't ever watch the news until this year. I really didn't care. But now, since so much mass shootings and like homicides and lots of drugs have been moved in here, which don't even get me started on that because I have my theories on that too, about cartel and Mexican cartel and Chinese cartel and drug invasion, and they're taking over all of our teenagers. That's why people can't write an essay in college. They're all jacked up on something like fentanyl and overdosing.
Oh, we got Narcan in the vending machines though. Go hit a button, it's free.
They should have it in there. That's stupid.
But now they're having parties to see how far they can go and how many times they can come back. Yes.
If anybody does that, that's ridiculous and they shouldn't be doing that. They should value their own human life more than that. So that's what I'm talking about. If you had a husband and a wife and their kids, and they were from on the other side of that gate or that wall, and they were willing to come here and stay out of trouble and work hard for the man making a wage, and they were willing to probably even accept and not act entitled, such as we do here, and they were going to work hard for less of a wage that wouldn't only like help our economy because we're paying them less, which I'm not saying that they're less worthy because I'm not saying that they're not. But if they're willing to work for less of a wage and work harder than we are, and then you have people here that are like trying to score money to score drugs, and that's all that they think about, and the homeless rates are just they're just on the rise, and so are the homicide rates. If you could like filter some of that out and throw those people over on the other side of that gate and just make it like a criminal exile and bring the good people over here and let them actually help us shape up our economy. I mean, as long as they're not violent, they're not causing a problem.
They're getting more than that, Norma. And yes, and they're all voting Democrat. Now you got it, Norma. You done it now. Here we go.
I can have a Social Security card and
All right, Norma. You brought it on, Norma. You got it.
Oh my God.
Now, how in the world can somebody win a presidency race with more votes than the state there are people live in it? Now, explain that to me.
How are you playing
so I don't know. Yes. So Norma done pushed my button.
But if it was a takeover, wouldn't it be from like China or somewhere else?
They're here.
If they're taking them out and they're patting them down and they're squeezing them through this tiny tube like a golf ball through a water hose to let them get in here, when there's already criminals from over there here illegally that snuck in.
So Stingray. All right. Now, when I was on the PD, this is how you became an American citizen. Voice is going to be awful to say this.
George Orwell.
What people would do, they would find the ugliest woman. These illegals, the ugliest woman they would find. And they would knock them up and marry them.
Who would? The police officers?
No, the illegals.
Oh.
Yes. And that's how they became American citizens.
Yeah, well, these aren't people that are coming over here to gain citizenship. I mean, some of them might be not married and they might end up marrying somebody here. As long as they're not like abusive or worse than we are. And that's pretty bad to be worse than we are.
FDL Paranormal, you just walked through the gates of hell, sir.
As long as they're not worse than we are, I really honestly, if they can pick and choose who comes over here and they can actually like benefit rather than take away from where we're at, I don't see a problem as long as it's not so many people that it's going to overrun our space to live. You know what I mean?
Oh, FDL Paranormal, we're talking about dark science. We're talking about immigration. We're talking about illegals. We're talking about dope, guns, murder. I mean, we're talking about everything. We might as well go ahead and get your demon Bible out and start reading from it. What the hell?
He's not going to let me come on here ever again.
So this is the co-host for Friday's true crime show too, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Just to let you know, it was a surprise, but it's out of the bag now. So Norma, I can't say much. I have a nephew on the border, and he confirms that the crossing is real. And yeah, so yeah, I did. I forgot the beard cam. Yes, I forgot to comb it. I do apologize. Yes, FDL Paranormal. Yeah, Stingray dope gun would be cool. A dope gun. A what? I had to look at my trifocals on that. He did say dope gun. Norma, I wish him well too. That is something I would never ever do in my lifetime.
What,
that's why, yeah, there ain't no way in heck I would do that.
Do you know how much money they make?
Last time I looked, it was around 70-something thousand. So I could be wrong. Hello, Kelly, Shannon, and Jay Green, Derek Green. Welcome, welcome. We had him start in politics over in UK, and then all hell will break loose, just like FDL Paranormal. Yeah, that's right. See you tomorrow, Grizzly. I can't wait. It's going to be interesting.
Oh, okay. She said Derek Green, and I was like, what are you talking about, Derek? And then I saw that was what she commented, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, that's not Derek. Isn't she Derek is her name?
Wow. You just ruined my dinner.
Me?
So, yeah, you sure did.
That's funny.
I said the wall should have been built. Don't send the money over to where we send all that money to that keeps wanting more money that we put in.
I don't know, but they had actually paid him to stop building the wall for a while.
He was a voiceover guy in America, and now he's fighting with Russia. What's his name? I can't even think of his name, ladies and gentlemen. She's got
Does
me
he
so
have a
up.
Russian name or a American name? I mean, what does his name sound like?
Oh, that country that we're giving all the aid to fight Russia. Ukraine. Thank you, Stingray. Yes.
That's what I'm asking. Is he their president?
Yeah, Ukraine. Yeah. Yeah. We gave him, we made him president. That's where everybody owns property. And that's why we do the money laundering and everything. Boy, there goes my CIA counter for the day. Robert Fulton, the problem is not aliens or illegals. It's people wanting a better life. You know, I do not denounce anybody, Robert, wanting a better life. But if you want to come to this country, by God, you do what you need to do the right way to get into this country and follow the rules to do so.
Yeltsin. He said Yeltsin.
I did?
No, Stingray said Yeltsin.
Oh. Yeltsin.
The Nazis.
Yeah, Yeltsin. Oh, Yeltsin. Okay, Yeltsin. I got you. See, y'all got me so worked up and fired up. Crazy Witch, he's depressed with hands. Yeah, my hands are tied. Stingray, I'm planning next trip to Ukraine. The runes and the chicks are chief right now. What in the world, Stingray? We're going to see you on CNN or Fox or MSNBC. You're going to be a hostage. That's all I need now. Trade you for a bucket of fried chicken or something.
He probably won't be a hostage. He'll probably be turned into a militant.
Kelly, you're always welcome to come over to America and do a live show. Hell, you don't even need a green card, girl, or a passport, I don't think, anymore. So, Norma, I'm sure I wish him well. Yeah, I do too. I don't wish anybody
I think it's a lack of human morals that's the problem, honestly.
It's guns that are the problem. Well,
it doesn't matter, though. A gun can be locked in a cabinet. I have a safe full of guns, and I haven't used them in years, okay? I don't take them, my arsenal, and go empty it out on somebody because I got mad and had a temper tantrum. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I know.
The guns are not the problem that are in there. It's who gets their hands on them.
And I agree with you, Norma. That is my number one problem. We take care of everybody in the world, but not ourselves. I've said that from day one.
Yeah.
And now we're worried about our debt ceiling again. Hello, good people, standing stones. Welcome late to the party. Hope all is
honestly,
well.
when I first saw that, I didn't agree with it, and I was about to be in panic because I thought we were going to get taken over. But then
Wolverines.
Huh?
Wolverines. Remember that movie?
Wolverine, like Wolverine?
Wolverine. No, Wolverines, where the American people took over and fought the Russians when they came and tried to take over a country back in the 80s.
Mm.
You remember that 90s Wolverine movies? Oh, you got to watch that movie. KO, knockout. Yeah, there we go, Standing Stones, I'll tell you.
I don't Perry Mason and Gunsmoke. The old one.
Unbelievable.
Everybody is at a capo tool list. Look after yours and your own.
Ryan says, I remember that. You remember that movie Wolverine? I think they made another one, didn't they? A newer one? I think they did.
I don't know, because I don't know what that movie is. The Wolverine I thought you're talking about is the X-Men Wolverine.
Yeah, well, she's talking the X-Men with the big old blade sticking out. So, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll be right back after this commercial. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This edition is brought to you by Western Bigfoot Investigations Paranormal LLC. Thank you, Dawn. Yes, Red Dawn. That is correct. Stingray and Crazy Witch. That's the name of the movie. Now, does that ring a bell, Rosie?
Yep, I know what that is. Yep.
Red Dawn. Yeah, I'm sorry. I said Wolverine.
It's a great movie.
Yes, Red Dawn.
That was a good movie.
Yes. Did you see the new one or the old one?
The new one. I might have seen the old one too, though.
Yeah.
If I do, I don't remember it as well. I remember the new one because I remember the people that played the characters in it that were in there.
Unbelievable. Yeah, so I had chicken parmesan waiting for me to eat. Now I'm not even hungry because now I'm seeing the border.
He didn't know that people were coming across the border right now.
No, I did not. I was more worried about this dark science
Are you not
of
glad that I
science.
told you though? Or are you not glad that you know now?
Well, what am I going to do? I mean, hell, we're going to change it.
Well,
Grizzly, I'd
what
love
if
to
you
do a
were
show with you
somewhere
about
else
ancient.
talking and you were like, man, what's going on?
Yeah.
And you didn't have a clue.
Crazy Witch, I'm down. I'll do a show with you on that any day. So, I got videos that would make your toes curl, make you flip out. Capless like Bernie Sanders, Standing Stone says. That's wild. So who do you think's going to win the president? Who do you think's going to win the election for president?
I don't hope that that's what they're doing, Norma. If that's what. I hope not. You said Norma said.
I'm gonna do.
I was like, I hear voices.
Yeah.
Okay, it just scared me for a minute. So
6-year-old. The 6-year-old.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Last time I heard voices, it was on my end. It was my dolls talking. So
I thought I actually heard something on your end earlier.
yeah, I got this little meter right here. So when I don't talk,
But does it
picks
say
up voices.
stuff like? But I heard a woman say, "Did you see that?"
Yes, yeah. I have Viva. You don't even want to know what I got in my studio. Yes, that's terrible. I got to do a cleansing.
Form a sentence that says a sentence. Oh, you mean like otherworldly thing?
Yes,
No, I heard a woman say either did you hear that or did you see that? And I was like, who is that? But I just didn't say anything, because I want to be nosy.
No. So I actually have a female entity in here. Her name's Jackie. I've got a tall man with a hat and black shadow. So yes. So I got to do a cleansing. We're still waiting on Wormwood, the Destroyer. Hey, Grizzly, thank you. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, it would be a lot of fun, Crazy Witch. Absolutely. So, but that was a neat video about the dark side of science. I was very appalled about it.
And then we found out a lot of things you Googled after that, which I didn't know about.
Yeah, that was like crazy. So that one, that's the only thing what we know about. That's what's scary, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the only thing what we know about. Because we know that allegedly NATO and other rules and regulations of America and the health department only allows us to do certain things. That's why we go across borders and other countries.
Yeah.
So we can play mad scientists and Frankenstein.
It's also way cheaper to do anything.
I know, and that's sad. It is. So it really is.
And if you want to get a tummy tuck or a booby job or a mom body makeover is what it's called, where they do the stomach and the top, it's all cheaper over there. Way cheaper.
Yeah, I saw what happened last time that happened. They ended up people dead and not even finished, and
They're kidnapped and taken hostage.
Yes. Standing Stone says the ratings plummeted. I bet it did. You talking to Democrats? Yes, they plummeted. Nibiru is outclassed Pluto. Is that another? Is that another planet they found?
It's probably the new planet that they were going to add. Since they took one away, they were going to add. There was another one that's been discovered that was supposed to be added sometime in the near future. I don't know if they did or not.
Standing Stones, Crazy Witch is laughing. NATO and the Nazis, they never left. NATO, I tell you, the only thing I say about NATO has all these rules that we abide by during war, but nobody else abide by them. So why should we? But that's Grizzly's take. But yes. It's not wars or viruses we need to worry about. It's rogue meteors. Man, if we knew what actually flew by our Earth, we wouldn't. Yeah, no, we wouldn't. No, we wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Planet X. NATO and NASA is not good for the common man. Yeah. Yes, Homenaki. Exactly, Grizz. See what I deal with? I love these people. So we do got a new crime show coming up for you, ladies and gentlemen, this Friday. It's going to be interesting. I'm not, see, y'all just, every time y'all say NATO and Rockefeller, there goes my CIA meter.
What's
Being
Rockefeller?
flagged.
What is Rockefeller?
So, the rich people that started America and stuff, they had their hands in everything, the Rockefellers.
Oh,
There are
wow,
actually
that's
3
beautiful.
Pluto-sized planets past Pluto. I didn't know that.
I knew they had discovered 1, but I didn't know they discovered 3.
There was a thing that I can't remember in school, but there was a thing that we used to say to remember all the planets in order. Something about a peanut butter sandwich or something, or I forgot how it went, but that's right, Crazy Witch. Loch Ness Monster. I believe in that too, Brian, and I believe in fairies. Yes, I said it. Fairies do exist. What do you
There's
think
a
the woods
video I
are?
need to send you. I didn't send you anything last night, did I? There's a video I found last night.
No.
It's crazy. I got to send it to you. I had to turn it off and stop watching it because my son got scared, so I had to turn it off.
Oh, I gotta see it.
But it's something that's scientifically like I don't know if it's explainable or not, but it's very mysterious and curious. It was caught by a boatman out on the sea. He was out there. I don't know what he was doing. I guess he was fishing on a fishing boat or something like that out in the middle of the water. Yeah. And there was something that kept making noises and answering back to him when he would ask it to.
Now that is freaky, ladies and gentlemen. I'd have been shooting overboard. I've been like,
I won't tell you the rest. It'll blow your mind when you see it. So
yeah.
There was visually something in the water too, but I won't say what it was.
Was it a mermaid?
I don't know.
Don't do that. You made me scream.
There's a freaking spider.
She screamed. Oh, a spider.
The only thing that scares me.
She screamed, I screamed, we all screamed. I about missed myself, ladies and gentlemen, on the air. Something is altering the orbit of Jupiter. I saw that. Just kill everything on the desk.
Sorry, let me turn the mic off.
I'm very excited. My mother just served us nachos. Nacho cheese. I believe in fairies too, Norma, and little people in North Carolina. Wait till you see tomorrow's show. They found asteroids' unusual orbits and calculated that Neptune-sized planet could be out there in the Kuiper Belt. I believe that. It was a saltwater mule. Interesting. Now it's going to rain. Don't kill a spider. Standing Stone says, "Don't kill a spider, please. Whatever you do, don't."
I didn't kill the spider. My tarot cards did. I'm pretty sure it's dead. Do you see that right there?
Oh, yeah, she killed it. It's dead.
That's probably it. I hope so.
Is she chasing cockroaches? No, she ain't chasing
cockroaches.
It
came down from this microphone and it just spun down on a little web and then it jumped and I was like, ah! Right while I was talking
That's the phrase to remember the planets. That's the phrase to remember the planets.
Chasing cockroaches?
What? I have no idea. Y'all got me laughing so hard. I don't know what.
Chasing cockroaches.
He got the death card. He got the death card. Did you see what kind of card it was? You did show it, didn't you?
Oh. No, it's the 6 of Wands, actually.
What does that mean?
The 6 of Wands, success.
Oh, success in dying. There you go.
Successful endeavor, or like a success in a project or something, like you're just.
Yes, Crazy Witch. We're all over the place right now, so.
Well, so is this spider. I thought I just felt it in my shoe. I'm wearing Crocs, and I thought it was in my shoe on my toe, and I was like, ah!
Standing Stone says, "Go fish."
What?
I can.
Oh my God.
That's how I play cards, he says. It means success in killing spiders, Stingray. And Standing Stone says, "Go fish again."
You know what that card means on this? This is a different deck. This is called the Tarot. This is called the Tarot of Haunted House. Okay.
Okay.
So it's not your regular standard deck. So this card actually means, you're not going to believe this because there was a spider. It means they escape the wicked plans with victory and triumph and advancement and achievement. Maybe I didn't get it. Maybe that wasn't guts. Maybe it's like markers or ink pen on that paper. Maybe it escaped me.
Oh, great. It's gonna come back and bite you now.
Oh my God.
Unbelievable. Ladies and gentlemen.
What's weird is that this card, you know why it's sitting here?
I had to ask.
I did a card pull for all of the victims and the alleged for the Idaho 4 case, and Ethan Chapin got this card. That means he didn't escape.
Oh.
Kind of odd, huh?
Yes, it is odd.
Because upright it means escaped. So reverse means the opposite, like you didn't escape. You failed.
Yeah, I covered that case when it first came out. That was I knew there was more to it. I said he did it. I said he did it before. So yes, there's going to be a drop like the stock market or Joe Biden's rock for standing stone.
The stock market has been going. It hasn't been doing that well. When I saw it last, anyways. I don't always watch like Forbes and all that stuff, but I've been watching Forbes lately. The News Nation. I haven't even been covering the case that happened here, like right up the road from me, at all. Oh my gosh! Right? Because look in the card. Look at all these people around it in all these red hoods. Don't you think that's kind of crazy? There's 5 people in a red. There are red cloaks, 5 of them, around this person. And I was like, "That's Greek Row." Is it not?
Yes.
Greek Row. I've been in them frat houses.
Unbelievable. All right, ladies and gentlemen, from coast to coast and around the world, we greatly appreciate her sharing that dark side of science and the border and the crisis and the killing a spider, and me about mess my britches now. I have to go change for my next show in less than 30 minutes, but that's all right, you know? I'm glad y'all had fun and met the new co-host.
Buy some self-changing pants.
So, yeah, I'm just going to do like Biden and buy some Depends. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, from us to you, you'd like to say goodbye to them because you're going to get to know them real well. They're good folks, man. I love them.
Nice to meet everybody. Hope to see you again.
Yeah, we'll see you Friday at 6 p.m. and I'll see you in less than 30 minutes. All right, take care, everybody. Love you guys. Bye.
It's a grizzly.
Should we get out of here?
No. We're gonna watch and listen.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
No.
Action.
It's a grizzly.
Oh, shit, should we run?
Okay. It's a grizzly.
Are you sure it's not Jim Monk? Action. I'm out of here. Action.
It's a grizzly.
I'm out of here.
Huh. Maybe it is a chipmunk. It's a grizzly.
Are we gonna die?
I don't know. We're just going to sit here and listen and watch.
Let's get out of here, maybe.
Fall!